Hey everybody, it is Kira from Vino Culture here for the virtual wine class since we are all drinking from 6 feet or further apart. If you are tuned in, just tell me who you are and where you're hailing from and what you're drinking. So I see Veronica Stranges is tuned in. What are you and Joe drinking right now, Veronica? And when did you start drinking? That's always the question, especially on this beautiful Saturday. I feel like if I were not delivering wine all afternoon like I was, then I would have been drinking rosé on my porch for like 6 hours by now, I think. So just tell me where you are and what you're drinking, and hopefully everyone is doing well in this crazy time that we are in right now. So, hey, Dominica, coming from Williamsburg, and awesome, the Tanasi Valpolicella Ripasso. So that was in my last 6-pack that I just delivered last week for my all Italian collection. Oh, the Graham Beck. The sparkling, is it the rosé or the regular, Veronica? Carla and Eric, also hailing from Williamsburg. And I know y'all are drinking the Jan's sparkling wine from Australia because I saw that on your Facebook page. I love technology. Hey, Michelle, how are y'all? In Suffolk, the Gabriel Rouse Merlot, fabulous, a Virginia winemaker, hailing, I guess, originally from Germany. It's one of the few Virginia wines that I always really enjoy. So, hey, Chase, how are you? Norfolk, awesome. What are you drinking, Chase? I just delivered a whole case of wine to you yesterday, so hopefully it's something from there. Kate, hailing from Virginia. Virginia, from Chesapeake. And actually, I don't know what you're drinking, Kate. Which one of the 3 bottles that I dropped off today are you drinking? So do tell. I'm curious. Fabulous, the Chenin Blanc. So I'm going to type in the names of the wines again in case you didn't get the memo. I am going to open up 3 wines from the 6-packs that I delivered this week. You do not have to have those wines to tune into this. I'll briefly talk about them, and if you're interested in them, you can get them delivered next week. But we're going to talk about all sorts of things, and so don't worry about it. So the first one that I'm going to try is the Amastoy Rosé from, it's hard to talk and type at the same time while on camera, Getariaco Chacolina. So that rosé, and then we're also going to be trying the Oats Bagnon. I call it the beignet wine, and it's a Chenin Blanc from the Loire Valley. And lastly, the Alessandro Valio, that G is silent, Dolcetto. Those are the 3 wines. So if you did get wine delivered from me and you picked one of those 3, open those up and taste them with us. So going back up, the Frico Rosé, Chase is drinking, awesome. That is a Sangiovese-based rosé from Tuscany, fabulous. Fabulous, Martha's drinking the Chenin Blanc, wonderful. Hi, Kathy. Let's see, Jenny and Stephen Williams, of those social media things that you found out about. But 2010 Rioja Reserva, that is fabulous. Is it white or red, actually? Because there are some really beautiful aged white Riojas out there. So I love it. Kate, you're drinking all 3 of them. Fabulous. That's the way to do it. Courtney, come from Newport, Rhode Island, drink it. Okay, please tell me what rosé. I'm all about rosé these days. We're going to be trying one tonight. And I'd love to know what you're drinking. Todd's Adventures from Yorktown. Fabulous. Hopefully you're staying safe on the peninsula out there. Drinking Welch's Cran Grape while eating beef Wellington. All right, interesting pairing. Do tell how that works out for you. The Estenas is Kathy's drinking a Bobao from Utiel Requena, Spain, right there in the Valencia region of Spain. That's a delicious one that I think I delivered last week. So awesome. So we are going to talk about, I'm going to go over the 3 wines and I'm going to just taste them for y'all so you have some tasting notes. And if you are tasting along with these, I want you to come what you're smelling and tasting in the wine. But the first wine that we're going to be drinking is Amastoy. It is a rosé. They call it the Rubentus Rosé. and it is from the Basque Country of Spain, specifically the area of Getariaco Chacolina. So yes, there's a T, an X, and a K all in there, and it's very confusing to pronounce, but it's pronounced Chacolina, like chocolate, but Chacolina. And the grapes are Handaribi Beltza, which is the red grape that gives it the color. It's about 80% that, I believe, and Handaribi Zuri, which is a white grape. So blended together, obviously the red grape just has partial skin contact on it, giving it that rosé color. And Chocolat Rosés, Chocolat for short, is just like the style of rosé or white wine or red wine that comes from that area. So you don't have to say Chocolina every time. So Chocolat is like the adjective. So Chocolat Rosé, one of my spritz to it, very, very, very high acid, super refreshing. And I have been delivering wine for like 6 hours today. So I'm in need of some refreshing rosé. Love that has the screw cap too. And we are going to be tasting this out of a porron today. So a porron, P-O-R-R-O-N, I'll spell that out there, is a Spanish style decanter. They've been pouring wine from porrons back until like the 14th century. History dates back to this, but the clear glass container with this like tea kettle spout to it. So it's not quite like a decanter because the point isn't necessarily to give it lots of oxygen. The point is to be a vessel to pour the wine, and rather flamboyantly as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pour the wine in here. And I should not be doing this wine first out of the porron first because it's going to require some dexterity, and we'll see how this works out. I'm probably going to get wine everywhere. So if you can tell, it's slightly fritzy, so you can see the bubbles in there. And this is actually 2018, so it's actually like we're still waiting for the 2019 to come out. But slightly fritzy rosé. I am so excited to try this. The idea is, if you're going to be like super graceful about this, let's see how I do here. You can pour the wine straight into a glass, like so, and then you start close to the glass, and then go further and further and further away. And you can do it just like that. And we're going to taste it like that. But it's a little more fun if you do it the local way, and that is just to pour it straight into your mouth or into someone else's mouth, but your mouth is not touching the decanter. So this is not Kira talking. This is like Spanish traditional way to pour chocolate, and other wines too, but definitely in this region, it's really popular. So you would start closer to your mouth and then pull away. I am going to get wine everywhere. We'll see how this works out. I'm selling these wines to these porrons too. So if you're interested, I can deliver this along with the chocolate rosé if you're interested in practicing at home, because we've got lots of free time. So let's see how this works out. All right, not too bad. A little bit of rosé on my face, but not too bad. I will only do that once tonight because I won't have such luck in the future. But for now, if you've got, pour it in your glass and let's taste along. I feel like I still have it all over my face. Taste along with us. So real quick, who else is tuned in here? Awesome. Hey, Kevin and Denise. Drinking the Occam's Razor. Sarah from Washington. Fabulous. Taryn, hailing from Colorado. Awesome. Say hello to Dawn. Heather, drinking a chilled brand Riesling. Fabulous. Over in Western Brant. Awesome. Real close by. I like all the applause. Thank you, guys. That was really nerve-wracking to do that on live camera for the entire world. All right. So this chocolate rosé, Handaribi Beltza, really odd grape, Handaribi Zuri, not really grown anywhere else in the world, but this area of the Basque Country of Spain. That's the northernmost part of Spain, above the mountains, right before you get into France. So on the nose, oh my gosh, yeah, just loads of green pepper, both like bell pepper and jalapeno. It's spicy. Not that they're adding these things to the wine at all. It's just the nature of these grapes. and lots of like Granny Smith green apple skins, like the bitter part of the skins, not the flesh. Lime zest, lemon zest, grapefruit, like every citrus thing you can imagine. A little bit of pineapple in there, white cherry, and like some white peach nuts. Really interesting. Man, this wine, even just from the nose, and yes, I just tasted it on here, but I was not concentrating on the taste. I was concentrating on making sure the wine got in my mouth. So let's taste together. If you've got this in your glass, with spritzy wine, be careful, because if you just start swishing, you swish too hard. So that first sip, I always do like a first impression sip. So just one sip, swallow it down, kind of just coats the middle part of your palate. And it's how most people taste wine. Doesn't really tell us as much about the wine as we want, but it does give us a first impression, which I always like to do. Next sip, larger sip than you might think is necessary for wine. I'm gonna swish it around your mouth, kind of like mouthwash, swirl it around, chew it up a little bit, but not too much, because this is a slightly spritzy wine. So there is some effervescence, some carbonation. You can lean forward while the wine is in your mouth and slurp in some air. Leaning forward helps you not to slurp it into the back of your mouth and aspirate, which is always a good thing. And if you're slurping in, out the front of your mouth. So, wow. So this wine, I've been drinking this wine since it came in. This vintage came in, I think, May of last year, maybe April of last year. And it was almost over the top, acidic and spritzy and intense. When it was first released, it's tamed down a little bit, and it's like a little bit more elegant. Definitely not round. This is lean, this is mean, this is high acid wine, but definitely a little bit softer than it was, say, 6 months ago. Sometimes I like rosés after they've calmed down for 6 months. So I really enjoy drinking previous vintage rosés in some areas, like Loire Valley, France, some areas of Italy and Spain. The higher the acid is, to me, the more time it needs to settle down a little bit before it's super enjoyable. Some rosés are meant to be consumed within 6 months of release. That's delicious too, but this is a pretty serious wine. And because it's got such high acid, it can age for a really long time. So, hey, Ada. Hey, Ada and Alan. I feel like I should just like wave to you, because I can probably see your house over my balcony. We live very close by. Great to see y'all. Jen and Jared, hey. Area, Strong Pond there as well. Oh my gosh, Ryan Ford from Birmingham, Alabama. We were on a family chat last night. That was a whole lot of fun. Amanda from P-Town, Portsmouth, drinking cava. Fabulous. Which cava is it, Amanda? And you're drinking Jam Cab Sauv. Remind me of the old days of press when when it's all chase with drink. This is one of my favorite things about being a sommelier, is that I'm not just here to tell you what to drink and what the cool kids are drinking or whatever and be snobby about it. I hate that. What I'm here to do is help you on your journey of wine. So you're drinking this, but want to expand your horizons, and taking you on that journey, and not just going from here to here immediately, but those little steps along the way. And it's really wonderful for me to know people for years and see over the course of years their styles, their preferences change as a result of just trying more wine. So you can teach your palate to like almost anything. There was this study done. I'm going to get a little nerdy here. Per usual, there's a study done of people who hated avocados. And this is probably like 10 years ago. They took hundreds of people, and they all participated in the study where they ate avocado every single day for a month in the study. They only took people in the study who said that they hated, like abhorred, like just truly detested avocado. And they were forced to eat avocado every single day for a month. Well, at the end of first week, they were like, it's true, but I might not like detest it as much. By the end of the second week, they were all like, all right, it's not my favorite thing, and I'm not going to request it, but it's not making me sick to my stomach anymore. By the end of week 3, they're like, I can actually see why people are liking this. It's just not necessarily my thing. By the end of week 4, they had 100% converted to avocado lovers. This is not a small study either. This was like a large study. I would cite it in here, but I didn't have that reference on hand. So 100% of the people who participated in the study went from hating avocado to loving it in a matter of a month. And it's just the process of trying it or introducing it to your senses on a regular basis for an amount of time, for an extended amount of time. There's a couple exceptions to that. One, cilantro. If cilantro tastes like soap in your mouth and you hate it, people either like cilantro or they hate it. That's like a genetic thing. You're never going to get past that. Same thing with goat cheese. It's a genetic thing. You're not going to get past that if that makes you sick and if you hate that, like my mom does. I have to remember that always when I bring cheese boards over to her house. So, but for the most part, you can actually train your brain to like new things because it's all about biology. We survived as a species through evolution because we were trained, or like our brain sends an alarm signal telling us, like giving us an alarm every time we introduce something into our mouth that we have never had before. So it's a foreign taste. It's not something we're used, and so that signals alarm, alarm, alarm. It might be poison. So it triggers us to be like to have an aversion to that one thing. And you can train your brain to turn off that alarm if you just introduce that one thing to your palate regularly. You can train your brain to turn off that alarm signal. So I just challenge you, if there's something that you think you hate and you just want to be a scientist and experiment on yourself, then just try that thing every day for a month and tell me, email me, call me, text me, and tell me what you have experienced in terms of how your palate has changed, or maybe it didn't. So I'd love to know. All right, sorry, trying to catch up here on that very long rabbit trail. Grand Bank, South African sparkling, fabulous. Veronica, love their sparkling wines. Sonia here. Hi, adopted from Birmingham, Alabama. Also, Los Monteros from Spain. Awesome, fabulous. Love that cava. And the Lini Lambrusco, fabulous. Tawana, love that Lambrusco. Most people think Lambrusco is going to be like sweet jug wine, Riuniti kind of style wine. That is not all Lambrusco. There's dry Lambrusco out there that is absolutely delicious. Hi, Brian Winter. Ew, goat cheese. So you will not be able to train yourself to like goat cheese, I promise you. But if there's anything else besides goat cheese and cilantro, I think those are the like 2 things that genetically like are predisposed or not predisposed to like, then you might have a. So Dominica, I know she hates Malbec, and you know, honestly, Dominica, the last class we did together, you actually had a Malbec that you said that you liked. So that might prove my point. And yes, if you did it daily, you might get to that point of liking Malbec faster. So awesome. All right, did anyone else drink this? I know Rebecca and Kate are drinking the Amistoy Rosé. And if you're watching this but haven't figured out how to make the chat work, my cell phone is right here. So if in this wine, if you got all the pepperiness, if you got that high acid, if you got something else in this wine, and if you are drinking it, tell me what you would pair this with. Because, I mean, to me, I just want fish tacos. I want chips and queso, and I want fish tacos, and I want this bottle to be a never-ending bottle because it's just that delicious. So I am going to run to my kitchen to get the Chenin that we're going to taste next. But in the meantime, this is the chance to ask any question that you've been dying to ask a sommelier, whether it is a question about food and wine pairings, about how to become a sommelier, about how as a layperson, so someone not in the wine industry, how they can learn more. 'Cause some of the books are either geared to industry people like professionals, or they're geared to like beginners, but what if you're right here? What kind of books I would recommend, or literally anything that you are wondering about. I'd be happy to answer any of those questions. So type them in, text me, call me. Don't call me because I'm not going to answer the phone on live TV. But I'm going to go get that Chenin Blanc. I had to put it in my freezer because I just picked it up, and then I was delivering wine for 6 hours today, so I didn't get a chance to chill this wine in advance. So I will be right back. All right, back in a flash. This is the Aubaignon Les Chênes Chenin Blanc, and it's from the Loire Valley. Loire is broken up into so many different regions, and it's because if you took the entire landmass that could be classified as Loire Valley, it would cover a third of France. That is how large Loire Valley is. So it spreads from the Atlantic coast all the way inland into the middle of France, and it goes north and south. It's very wide. It follows all the river tributary systems of the Loire River and all of the tributaries that feed into the Loire River, which eventually feeds into the Atlantic Ocean. So it starts inland, coming from higher elevation, and all the streams and stuff collect into larger rivers and finally into the Loire River. And they say, I love, so Oz Clarke, I was going to pull out a book, but I don't have time to find the exact quote. Oz Clarke is one of my favorite wine writers because he's so British, man. He's so serious and dry, but has this like sense of humor, but it's not a smiling sense of humor. It's really wonderful. And he says that as the Loire River goes inland, where those streams are burbling, gurgling, babbling, like very, very lively streams going across rivers, a little bit more intensity to them. As it becomes larger and more feeds into it, it becomes larger, it becomes slower and more lazy. And he says that the wines tend to do the same thing. So further inland, you got this like real verve and intensity and friction of the wines. Like they have higher acid, they're just a little bit more rough around the edges and just a little bit more intense further inland. And as you go closer to the coast, they become a little bit more just easy, approachable, delicious wines, yes, but a little bit more simple. And while I think that is the case for the bulk of wines exported to the US from Loire, I don't think it's a full rule. There's plenty of exceptions to the rule. So this one area of terrain is kind of actually known for Sauvignon Blanc more because Sauvignon Blanc is a higher yield grape. It produces more grape bunches per vine, and so you can make more wine. So it's a little bit more cost effective than Chenin Blanc. Chenin Blanc is not as high yielding as Sauvignon Blanc. And so terrain has just classically for the last 40, 50 years focused more on Sauvignon Blanc in terms of what they export. There's a few producers who are like, no, Chenin Blanc that grows really exceptionally in Savinière and Vouvray and these other areas of Loire Valley grows exceptionally here too. We just have been lazy about it. So I think there's exceptions to almost every single wine rule. That's why I never give people definitive answers. So I'm going to open this up and let's catch up on comments here. So Tawana says, I will struggle with pairing foods. Is there a tried and true trick? Great question. And no, there isn't. I tend to say, take that rule book and throw it out the window in terms of wine pairings. But I'd say while the typical rule was always pair the wine to the protein, I screw that. Don't pair it to the protein. Like chicken means this, salmon means this, pork means this. Pair it to the preparation. So a char-grilled chicken breast is going to be a very different wine pairing than roasted chicken thighs smothered in like enchilada sauce. So pair it to the preparation, like how are you preparing that? And your ultimate goal. So are you trying to accentuate one flavor Or are you trying to mitigate it? So like really spicy food. Some people want to mitigate that because the spice is a little intense. So you actually serve it with something sweeter to kind of balance out that spice. Or do you want to accentuate something like smoked salmon? Well, Pinot Noir is actually a really classic pairing with salmon, and smoked salmon, the smokiness in a Pinot Noir is going to accentuate the smokiness in salmon. So there is no tried and true trick, but I don't know if you can read this. Oh, it's backwards. Okay, I'll type it in. But it is what to drink with what you eat, and it's a whole book about this, and it gives you kind of exercises to do about the wines as well, which is pretty fun. But what to drink with what you eat, I'll type that in. What to drink with what you eat. So to answer your question, unfortunately, there's not a specific trick, and unfortunately, it does come down to personal preference as well. So it makes it a little bit harder, but it also makes it an adventure, which is really fun. All right, so Todd's Adventures, speaking of adventure, says, Kira, do you know I don't drink, but love your classes. Okay, fabulous. Oh, hi, Todd. Now I know which Todd you are. Okay, awesome. If you were to recommend one red and one white to keep at home for guests, are so intense about their wines, man. I think life is too short to only drink one type of wine, but some people are like, no, I only drink Chardonnay, or I only drink Pinot Grigio, or I only drink Cabernet or Pinot Noir. And what I have found in terms of finding a red and a white, a house red and a white that could make most people happy, might not be their most favorite wine ever, but they will be satisfied with drinking that, is Rhone Valley reds and whites. So especially the southern Rhone. Côte du Rhône is an area that kind of encompasses 90% of Rhone Valley. And the reds are Grenache-based blends with some Syrah, Mourvedre that if they do have oak, it's older oak and minimal. They're going to have some juice to them. They're going to have some smoke, some spice, but they're not going to be too full-bodied, but they're not going to be too light-bodied. And generally, you can find some for like $15 that are out of this world. So Côte du Rhône reds and Côte du Rhône whites, because they are generally blended from Grenache Blanc, sometimes Marsanne, Roussanne, Clairette. There's like 17 different grapes that are blended in usually. But again, not necessarily oaky, not necessarily light-bodied, not necessarily full-bodied. And I have like planned weddings around wines of this nature, Côte du Rhône red and Côte du Rhône white, in the $15 price range. Way over deliver because the value is there. And they're so versatile. I have rarely served those wines to people who are like, I hate this wine. So highly, highly recommend looking for those Côte du Rhônes, both red and white, in that $15 price range. All right, so Dominica, great question. Can you taste volcanic soil in the wine? Currently drinking the Finimondo, which it was in my Italian six-pack, which I bought before all of this happened, and translates to end of the world. So kind of fitting for how we're all feeling right now. But it's from the volcanic island of Sicily, and it's a Nero d'Avola is the grape. So here is a grand question, and there is no great answer to this. There is science and there's anecdotal evidence. So scientific and anecdotal evidence. So just like experience-based, like what I actually experience versus what science tells me is possible. Science tells us that it is not possible for us to taste the soil in the wine. So if a wine was grown in limestone, or wine was grown in slate, or wine was grown in volcanic soil, it is not possible to taste that in their wine because the root has hairs on it. Those hairs are what absorb the water and nutrients in the soil. Soil we use loosely as a term in the wine world because most of the time it's just straight up rocks. And it is not physically possible for those hairs to absorb mineral nutrients, meaning like broken down rocks. You can only absorb potassium and iron and things that are nutrients that are not from broken down rocks or broken down minerals. So it is not possible. The hairs, you cannot break that rock down far enough to the point where the hairs of the roots can absorb it into the vine and thus transmit that flavor into the grape itself and into the wine. So scientifically, we have no explanation for why we do anecdotally, like experientially, do taste minerality in the wine sometime. And here's my thought, and I am not a scientist. I am not a geologist. I am none of these things. I just drink a lot of wine. And here's my experience with tasting minerality in wine. I often can only pick up specific minerality textures of something like chalk, pencil shavings, like that graphite, but like pencil shaving dust in the air, and volcanic ash. And here's why I think that might be. The grape itself has wax built around the grape. That wax is really rigid. The wax is just, it's not sprayed on at all. It's not like apples are sprayed with wax in the grocery stores to keep them shiny. That wax is literally what the vine produces around each individual berry to make sure that those berries are protected from being blistered and sunburnt by radiation from the sun. That wax is not smooth, it is rigid, and so it captures particles in the air, very, very, very tiny, tiny particles in the air. So that is why we can smell lavender in our wine. If there's a lavender field nearby these vineyards, is because those essential oils get in the air. Those oils of whatever is in the air, whether it's evergreen forest, you get some like eucalyptus or whatever that is, can get in the air and be trapped very, very microscopically by the wax of the individual berries of the grape. So that being said, smaller particles of those broken down rocks, like chalk of limestone or volcanic ash captured by the grape itself and then thus processed with the wine. That is the only reason that I can come up with. I have not read any other reasons. And I've also not read anyone that says that reason. So please don't think that that's a scientific thing. That's just my posit. But basically, we don't know, which is really exciting to think that the science is still out on this yet. There's still things that we don't know about the world, like how to solve coronavirus or how to figure out why we are smelling and tasting volcanic ash in wine that is grown in volcanic soil, even though the science doesn't support that. So again, I'm sorry that was a question that I didn't really answer and couldn't really answer, but just threw out some posits. So Steve Hill, hi Dad. And guest arrives with a very poor quality wine, and you have already opened the very nice wine selected to serve with the meal. Do you open the the guest wine or not? Okay, so you're at a house party and you're serving some really delicious stuff like this Chenin Blanc, and someone brings you like wine. They obviously got it like 7-Eleven or something like that. Not that I've never drank wine from 7-Eleven before, but so what I say is if you are bringing wine to a person's house for dinner, you should never expect that to be opened right there unless you specifically say, hey, I wanted to drink this with you. I want to know your thoughts on this wine. Outside of that, it's probably a host gift for you to drink on your own or use for cooking wine, which I have done before. All right, got a fresh glass here. I'm going to get to the rest of the questions soon, but in the meantime, let's, if you have this Chenin Blanc, go ahead and pour it. I know some people are already drinking it. Just make sure it's not bad. Oh, man, I just love it when you don't even have to swirl the glass. You don't even have to decant it. You don't have to do anything. Just that, a freezing cold white wine. That aromatic is just jumping out of the glass, metaphorically. But actually, kind of literally, because those esters, those molecules, those are compounds that are in the air physically that are coming out of the glass into the air. So while they might not be jumping, they're floating out of the glass pretty aggressively into my nose. So terrain, region in the Loire Valley, a region in France. They grow tons of grapes there, but one of the primary white grapes is Chenin Blanc. And this is a Chenin Blanc that way over delivers for like the price that it normally is. I think it was like $24 or something like that in the 6-pack that I just put out. But 100% Chenin Blanc from a single vineyard site, and older vines as well. Older vines means that the vine itself is producing less grape clusters, which means that the flavor intensity is more concentrated, and this is definitely showing that. So Chenin Blanc can be made in a range of styles, from bone dry, super, super light and soft, to rich, full-bodied, and nutty like this one. So this actually smells like it has way more age on it than it does, meaning I get like this nutty, caramelized quality to the wine, which makes me think that the wine is older, even though it is not old at all. So a little bit of oxidation to the wine, either in the winemaking practice, intentionally, or just like that's just the style of the wine. So I get loads of like baked apple, brown pear, macadamia nut cookies. Oh my gosh, now I'm craving macadamia nut cookies. But it's got all these baked qualities, like a graham cracker crust, a tart, a pastry, something like cooked with butter, with that dough that's baking in the oven, with all of this fruit, and cinnamon too. There's cinnamon on here. Just really, really beautiful wine. White flowers, and there's this hint of lanolin. So lanolin is like the wax that comes from like sheep's wool. It kind of has this like linen, fabric-y smell, but it's a little bit waxy, a little bit funky here. I'm kind of in funk sometimes, and I get that in this wine, but it's definitely not over the top. The fruit there is the nuttiness is there for sure, but cool, yeah. So if you are tasting this, tell me. I know Mark and Martha, I know y'all are drinking this, so tell me what you're, and so are you, Kate and Kate Oliver and Rebecca. So tell me what you're smelling and tasting in this wine. Let's taste here. Whew. Man, it smells so rich and weighty. So you think it's gonna sit like heavy and round and viscous on your mouth, and it is not. That's very tart acid. It's like I have straight up lemon juice on top of this baked apple pastry thing, which is great because I love the zesty, like vivaciousness of that lemon and that acid with the depth and complexity of that baked apple brown pear thing. Oh my God, there's just so much going on in this wine. Now, all of this minerality, yes, I know that there's no scientific reason why, but it's straight up chalky. Like when you cleaned the erasers, the chalkboard erasers out in the schoolyard, during recess, kids these days, they're never going to understand that texture in your mouth. We need to save this just for the future sommeliers in the world to know what chalkiness tastes like in your mouth. Tons of chalkiness, loads of this like lemon pith, lemon membrane, lemon seeds, lemon oil. And then yes, there's all that nuttiness in the back, but the nose is totally contrary to the palate. The nose does not confirm the palate, or the palate does not confirm the nose. They're very different things. And I could probably wax poetic about this wine for another 30 minutes. I won't do that and take up this much time. Highly recommend this wine. I definitely want this, like all I'm thinking is pork. And I think I put this in my tasting notes. I want like pulled pork barbecue, or I want like a bone-in pork chop, something a little bit fattier, char grilled, maybe that little crust on the outside. I want it, if you did it with a salad, I want some bacon in there, some pork belly dishes, with polenta. Like, it can stand up to some heavier foods for sure. That acid's through the fat, and the complexity and that richness of texture and intensity of taste is going to last a long time. So highly recommend so far both of these wines, which is odd. It's like I tasted them before and decided I loved them or something. I don't know. So, all right. So what did y'all taste in these wines here? So, all right. Answered that question. Okay. Oh, okay. So Chase says just opened it and getting that new Barbie smell, that plasticky kind of a petrol-y smell. Generally speaking, if you smell wine, and legit, this is for real. This is not just me being a wine nerd. You can smell in certain wines, generally more whites than reds, and generally Riesling is like the top grape variety that has this. But you can smell like a new pool toy, tennis ball, rubber, like brand new tennis shoes, tennis balls, a garden hose, diesel fuel, anything like that. It's literally coming like that petrol-y smell, that plastic, is generally what I have found, again, anecdotally, is when vines are grown in more granite soil types that express that. And Riesling is kind of like mushrooms or tofu, where it just absorbs characteristics of what's around it. So Riesling grown in slate or granite. Slate is broken down granite. Schist is broken down slate. It's all similar. Will have way more of that than if it's grown in like sandstone, limestone, clay, gravel kind of thing. So this is limestone. So no necessary reason for that. It's just sometimes wines can give off that. That might blow off. So tell me if that blows off as you like swirl the glass around and as those esters open up and release. So let me know. So Martha says acidic, but green apples and cinnamon. Yes, yes, all those apples and lots of that cinnamon. So, and loads of lemon. Yes, yes, fabulous. Those of you all who are drinking the Chenin Blanc, tell me if you found the same thing that I did, that how it tasted was radically different than how it actually smelled. So I'm very curious. So while I wait for those, I'm going to answer this question by Carla. This is like the most brilliant question ever. If I had to be quarantined with only one grape, what would it be? That is, oh man, I'm going to like cry now. I don't know if it's possible to pick one grape. It's like picking one favorite pair of shoes. And those of you who know me and who have seen my closet, that is not possible. All right. How long is the quarantine, and is it winter or spring or summer or fall? I think if I had to pick up maybe a region, maybe I can do that. It'd be northern Italy, specifically Piedmont. If I could just like drink only wines from Piedmont, Italy for the rest of my life, I would be perfectly happy. Speaking of Piedmont, we're about to try the Dolcetto, the red wine from Piedmont, Italy next. But Nebbiolo is one of my favorite grapes. I love Barbera. I love Arnaise. I actually really like Moscato when it's done really well. And sometimes dry Moscato is delightful. Gavi, which is made from the Cortese grape. I generally, yes, I think I could drink wines from Piedmont, Italy. I know that didn't answer your question. I just don't know if it's possible to answer that question. And that's hard. So, okay, so scrolling up, I missed this question by Martha. I know it might be different for a wine fridge, but how long should we keep a wine in the kitchen fridge? Can it stay until it's used, just in case we need a porch wine one? Okay, fabulous. Now, if the wine is not opened, and if it's a white sparkling rosé, honestly, even red, the wine will not go bad in the fridge. What you might see is, hold that thought, I'm going to try and show you. No, I don't have it. But what you might see is if you have a wine that's been very cold for a long time, like 6 months or more, you might see like crystals in the bottom of the bottle, and if it's on the side, it'll be along the side. Those crystals will look like sugar crystals or something like that. It's literally just almost like crystallized cream of tartar. It's tartrates, and that's not anything bad. It's not going to hurt you. It'll just give a texture, like a crunch to the last sip of wine when it's in the bottom of your glass. And that will happen to your wines when they're very cold for a long time. So it's just a temperature thing. It like crystallizes these compounds. So, but outside of that, no, wine's not going to go bad. It's not recommended, especially for sparkling wine, that you store it very cold for very long because it will lose some of its texture, its complexity, maybe bubble structure. I've never really had a problem. I think it would take like over a year for that to really change or damage the wine. So I wouldn't necessarily worry. But no, I always have, and I've actually had in my fridge, which is tiny. I don't have room for this, but somehow it's still there. This bottle of wine in there that I put in for this one meal that I never ended up drinking it for that meal. And now it's just still sitting in there, and so eventually I just need to figure out. But you're also not going to be facing a problem if you take it out of the fridge and it goes to room temperature and then back in the fridge later. That's a myth that makes the wine go skunky or the beer go skunky. You're not going to have a problem if it changes temperature too fast, too like quickly. If it goes from really cold to really warm or really warm to really cold. For bubbly wines, sparkling wines, or beers, you might lose some carbonation. And you might lose some of the integrity of the wine, but it would have to be like very drastic for it to change enough for it to really notice. So I wouldn't worry about that. So, ooh, Holly Road, hi. Drinking a Priest Ranch Chenin Blanc yesterday. Interesting. I've had plenty of their Cabernets. I've never had their Chenin Blanc. Sounds super interesting. From California. So Chenin Blanc doesn't just have to be from France. I love it too. Martha Petit, I love that you're always saying porch wine, my favorite thing ever. Yes, I mean, wine just tastes better when you're drinking on the porch in the springtime, listening to the birds and sneezing out the pollen and stuff. So, all right. So, Dad again says we're drinking the Baden-Horsicatur Chenin Blanc. So another Chenin, but from South Africa. Fabulous. The nose and taste match on that one. Much more floral than what I'm describing. Yes, this Chenin Blanc is not floral. A lot of Chenin Blancs are way more floral. That one is. And that one also has some oak on it. So interesting. And I can't currently buy my wine from you. I'll be back in July. Don't worry, Courtney. We'll save enough wine for you when you get back. What should I say in my local wine shop to make sure I buy good wines? Okay, fabulous. Great question. Wherever you are, whether you're in a restaurant, when we can finally go to them again, or a wine retail shop, find a person that can answer your questions. So before I ever trust someone's wine opinion, I'm going to ask them a few questions like, hey, if I like Chenin Blanc, what other grapes do you think I might like? And just see how they respond. If they just like look around for inspiration and then just point to something that looks jazzy on the shelf, then maybe don't trust their opinion. But if they immediately start asking you, oh, do you like dry Chenin Blanc or sweeter Chenin Blanc, more floral Chenin Blanc or more nutty? Like if they start asking you questions to dig into more of your style, then you can start trusting them. So it's not necessarily about telling them what you like. It's about finding the person who's going to ask the right questions to get to that answer themselves. So there's plenty of terrible people in the wine industry, but there's so many more amazing people in the wine industry. And it's just about finding that right person who's the right fit for you, who understands your palate. So also, if you're looking for recommendations, you can always just text me pictures of the wine shelf, of the store you're in, or the wine list, and I'd be happy to make you recommendations. I'm always wonderfully happy to do that. So, all right, so let's drink this Dolcetto. So many glasses here. I guess I have to drink 3 bottles of wine tonight. It's the problem with social distancing is there's less people to share the wine with. So, all right, so this is Alessandro Velio, so that G is silent, Dolcetto d'Alba. And whenever you see a word and then D apostrophe another word on Italian wine labels, generally the first word is the grape name, the grape type, the grape variety. D apostrophe stands for DI or from translation. And then the second word is the village or the area it's from. So this is the grape Dolcetto from the area or village of Alba, which is a city in Piedmont, Italy. So in the foothills of the Alps, Piedmont is, that's my favorite region that I think I would be okay being stuck with if I had to be quarantined with one region. But I still don't think I could ever pick a specific grape. All right, so speaking of which, how much am I going to drink tonight? Not that much. And if I want to save this red wine to drink in the future, I'm going to put a cork in this and I'm going to save it in my fridge because it's temperature more than oxygen that will make your wine go bad faster. So if I want to make sure that I can still drink this in a couple of days when I want to drink some more red wine, I'm not going to use a fancy topper and oxygen remover and all of that stuff. I'm just going to put a regular cork back in it, put it in the fridge. I'm going to let it come up to room temperature again before I drink it, but that will preserve my red wine much longer than any fancy topper. So save your money. Don't buy the gimmicks. I'm a terrible salesman, but don't do it. Just put your red wine in the fridge after it's opened if you want to save it for longer. Now, if you're just trying to save it for 24 hours, you're good. But if you're trying to make it last a little bit longer, then that's what I would recommend. I'm going to switch glasses up for this one. Speaking of wine and glassware, next week's virtual wine class is going to be so exciting. We're going to do a blind tasting class. And so next week, I will be delivering a 4-pack of wine. So 2 reds and 2 whites. We're going to try 2 white wines side by side and 2 red wines side by side. The wines will have their labels removed. So I'll soak them off, scrape them off, whatever it takes. And they'll just be labeled red wine number 1, red wine number 2, white wine number 1, white wine number 2. Also going to deliver the tasting sheets, the information about how to blind taste, and we're going to do that all together next week. So that'll be next Saturday at 6 o'clock. If you are interested and live in the area, you're also welcome to just participate and drink wine with us and tune in on live. But if you want to be drinking the same wine as I am and we're all going to taste together, then that's what we're going to be doing next week. And if you want these really fancy red wine glasses that are really amazing for tasting wine, crystal glassware by Riedel, then I can deliver those with the wine as well. So you can get 1 or 2 or 4, however many you want. And so information on that will be emailed out. So if you're not signed up for my email distribution list, here's my website. Vinoculture, VA.com. So you can go there, you can go into the contact thing and just sign up. On the very bottom of any of the screens, there'll be sign up for my, or stay updated. Will be a link there to just put your email address in and make sure you have the link to that, because all of that will just be through email. All right, so I'm going to pour this little bit of this wine, Alessandro Velio, Dolcetto d'Alba 2017. And I always like, especially with red wine, to have a white piece of paper as the background as I hold it on its side and look straight down. And that's going to give me a better picture of the color. If I hold it up, I'm just picking up color from all around the room, and all red wines are pretty much going to look the same. And if you have this wine and it's opened and you just swirl it on its side, I'm just kind of like swirling the wine glass. I notice it is just fuchsia in color, almost like magenta. It's deep. It's a little cloudy, which means that it was unfiltered. And holy cow, that nose. This is just straight up blueberry pie. I think that was my initial tasting note on this wine as well. but blueberry cobblers, just like baked blueberries, which interestingly, blue fruit is not super common to find in red wine grapes. So there's red fruit and black fruit, definitely. Blue fruit, like blueberries, maybe pomegranates, a little bit harder to find. Sangiovese, often, sometimes Merlot. There's a couple other grapes, but this dolcetto, I've never had a dolcetto that smelled and tasted so much like blueberries before. So if you have this wine, tell me what you are smelling in this. There's a little bit of like woodsiness too, but it's wet wood, wet forest floor, potting soil kind of thing. Really mostly feminine on the nose, though. It's not too earthy. That's just like hints of that. Definitely more fruit forward on the nose. So I'm going to taste down, do it the two ways, the just initial sip and then the swirling. Ooh. All right. That initial sip, I thought it was going to be way more fruit forward, way more fruit in the mouth. And I'm definitely hit with all of those tannins, that drying sensation. It's a little bit more grippy than the nose would lead me to believe. Let's try it again. Ooh, yeah. Man, that's deceptive wine there. It's all fruit in your face, and then tannins and earth and grip and kind of this like gritty texture to the wine. Again, makes it really interesting for me. I just want to see how the wine develops and changes with time in the glass or with food that I'm eating. I really do still want this with food. This is definitely a food wine. Carne asada tacos is what I'm thinking for dinner tonight. I think I might enjoy this wine with that. Or either the white or the rosé. I might just have to continue trying all three of these wines with dinner tonight and see how it all pairs up. So, man, sorry, it's hard to talk when your mouth is watering so much from the acid and drying out so much from those tannins and minerality, but really delightful. The wine is lighter bodied, meaning it doesn't sit heavy on our mouth, but it has those textures of the tannin and the acid that give it more complexity than you would actually expect for something that's a little bit lighter bodied like this. So very pleasantly surprised by all of these wines. And the reason why I chose them for tonight's class is when I initially tried them a week ago for the wine delivery service, I was blown away by their value, what they offered, how interesting they were, how complex they were, and what they brought to the table in terms of pairings. So that's why I chose these for tonight. Next week will be all about blind tasting. It'll be 4 wines. We'll try both white wines side by side, both red wines side by side. I really hope you tune in for that. And again, make sure you are subscribed to that YouTube channel so that you get notified when I post new videos, wine education, or live classes. If you're subscribed to my email notifications so that you get information about the wines when they're going next. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. I hope you're doing all right in this crazy time. If there's anything that I can do to help you out, namely provide more wine to get through it, let me know. I'd be happy to help. And in the meantime, love your neighbor, be kind to one another, because that's the only way we're going to get through it. P.S. Those wine 6-packs, any tips that are left on the sales of those, half of those tips are being donated to 4 Kids. It's a Norfolk organization that works with children of families dealing with homelessness or experiencing homelessness. Even more crucial in a time like this where so many more families are on the brink of homelessness or poverty as a result of losing their work. So this is the time to be generous and care for one another. So hope to see you again soon in real life, hopefully, and to give a real hug instead of a virtual hug. And in the meantime, just be kind to one another.